Welcome to the webinar, Effective Ways to Use DocCom Modules in Online Education. I'm Barbara Lewis. This webinar will last about 30 minutes and the recording will be available on the DocCom website. If you have any questions, you can type them into the question and answer box, Q&A. And if we don't have a chance to answer your questions during the webinar, we will afterwards. Dr. Claudia Kiessling will discuss her article to Zoom or not to Zoom, published in the GMS Journal of Medical Education in December 2020. But before I introduce her, let me talk briefly about DocCom. So most of you are DocCom subscribers, but some of you are not. So let me just briefly tell you that DocCom is a proven online interactive healthcare communication learning system. We started with a grant from the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation in 2004. We were launched as a pilot in 2005, debuted as a nonprofit, and started DocCom Deutsch, which is what we'll be talking about today, and that's what Claudia has been using since 2011, actually, and we began offering CME in 2015. So our module authors are leading faculty. We have 42 interactive online modules, over 400 videos, and many of them are annotated. And we have a back-end learning management system as well. You can use DocCom anywhere, anytime. Currently, we have about 90 institutions that subscribe, and we've had over 90,000 subscribers. We have been translated into 3 other languages, including German, Japanese, and Portuguese. And we have 10 journal articles that have discussed the value of DocCom. And this is the latest one that's come out, the GMS Journal for Medical Education, and the article was to Zoom or not to Zoom. So Claudia Kiessling, Dr. Claudia Kiessling, is on the faculty of the Health Department of Human Medicine, and she's also the chair of Development of Personal and Interpersonal Skills in Healthcare. She has written over 40 journal articles, and she has been using DocCom since 2011. So Claudia, go ahead.
Thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. And hello to all of you. I would like to talk in the next 15 minutes about how we have used the DocCom modules during the last year, during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I would like to start with March 2020, so just 1 year ago. Our medical school stopped all face-to-face teaching due to the pandemic, and we needed a digital course concept very quickly, as our courses started only 3 weeks later. When we started with very little experience in online teaching, as well the teachers as our standardized patients. We had little support by our IT service because they had so many duties, new duties, and we had no extra budget or resources for any fancy IT solutions. But we were lucky enough to license the German-speaking version of DocCom, which is called DocCom Deutsch. And this allowed us to change our course concept very quickly and to develop an inverted classroom concept. Next. So what is the German version or the German-speaking version of DocCom? We started about 10 years ago, and the kickoff was funded by the Novartis Foundation for Human and Environment. And the project was established by Christoph Detwiler, Dennis Nowak, Wolf Langewitz, and the members of the Institute of Medical Education in Bern, Switzerland. We have actually 13 modules, mostly based on the US-American modules. And it's a joint project of actually 16 institutions in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And just to make you a bit jealous how wonderful Switzerland can be, this was the place of the kickoff meeting for the German-speaking version of DocCom. And we met middle in the mountains in Switzerland, and it was a wonderful weekend. And I would like to show you a few framework conditions from my university, the University of Witten-Herdecke, which is in Western Germany. We run a 6-year medical curriculum. It's based on problem-based learning in the first 2 years with early patient contact. Since 2018, we put much more emphasis on specific competences, which are personal and professional development, outpatient or ambulant care, scientific working, and interprofessional education. And I'm in charge for the track personal and professional development. And this contains the doctor-patient communication, team communication, resilience and well-being, professional identity formation, and medicine and society. We built up our longitudinal curriculum successively. We started in 2018. Our first cohort had 43 students, and from the second cohort on, we have 84 students per semester, which are about 160 per year. The majority of our courses are voluntary. Only a few courses are obligatory, and this is in line with the philosophy of our university, which puts a very strong focus on student-regulated learning. And here you can see an overview about our longitudinal communication skills curriculum. In the first year, which are the semester 1 and 2, we train general or basic communication skills like relationship building, providing structure, nonverbal communication, dealing with emotion, gathering information. And in the second year, the semester 3 and 4, we have our training with the standardized patients. And we start with gathering information, and then comes sharing information. And for sharing information, this is the course I would like to show you a little bit more in detail. We have 3 sessions, each 2 hours. In this semester or in this year, we also have a course in talking about sexuality, so this is extra. And in the third year, our students enter the clinical phase of studies. We start with a refresher of what we have done in the preclinical years. And then we have specific communication trainings like motivational interviewing, communicating errors, the difficult patient, communication with patients with dementia, with parents and children, and so on. But as I said, I would like to show you the concept in the last year of our training with the simulated patients about sharing information. In summer 2020, the course started with an email to the student to communicate them the new course plan during the pandemic, and an assignment for one DocCom module, which is called sharing information. And the assignment contained 2 tasks: prompts for reflecting prior experience and knowledge of sharing information, and questions to be answered by working with the DocCom module. And the reflection part was done before entering the DocCom modules, and the questions were to be answered while working with the DocCom modules. Our students had about 2 weeks time, and it was obligatory for them to submit the assignments via Moodle, which is our content management platform. Then we looked into the texts of the students and identified further learning needs. And then we sent an email to the students again with 2 additional voluntary exercises according to their needs. One was an exercise to rephrase closed questions into open questions, and the other one was to translate a discharge letter from hospital into lay language. And then we had 2 Zoom meetings, and we divided our group of students, 43 students, into 7 groups in parallel, so 6 to 7 students each. And we had 2 hours time. We started with a discussion about open questions, for example, about the DocCom module. And then students prepared in breakout rooms a checklist how to provide information to patients. And then they had time for 2 role plays among each others about that topic. In the second Zoom meeting, we were able then to include our simulated patients, and the students had the chance to practice what they have learned with the standardized or simulated patients. So what was the feedback? Students feedbacked us that working with the DocCom module was a very good preparation for the role plays and much more interesting than expected. And they especially liked the annotated videos. The Zoom meetings were okay, better than expected, but not as good as face-to-face. And they explicitly wanted more time for role plays with these standardized patients because not all students had the chance to practice with them. Teachers thought that Zoom meetings worked better than expected, but not as good as face-to-face. A plus was no time for traveling to the university to run the courses. They found that students were more prepared than usually. So what have we changed for the autumn course in 2020? We changed the course concept into 3 meetings, all with standardized patients, and these 3 Zoom meetings were obligatory. Again, 2 hours time, 2 role plays per session. We kept DocCom as a preparation for the Zoom meetings, but on a voluntary basis. And now I would like to show you a few of the evaluation results. We used an online questionnaire for the students. We had a Likert-like scale from 1 fully agree to 7 fully disagree. And what we found was that the students were mostly very satisfied with the course concept. They agreed that they were able to improve their communication skills and that they were able to practice specific communication techniques. The group atmosphere in the Zoom meetings were okay for them. Half of the students found that using Zoom had clearly affected the atmosphere. So here the agreement was so-and-so undivided. And in red, you see the evaluation of the DocCom module. And students agreed that it was a good preparation for the Zoom meetings, but the agreement was higher in the year summer 2020 or the term 2020 when DocCom was obligatory in comparison to the course when it was on a voluntary basis. Next slide, please. So what have we learned for using Zoom for our communication skills trainings? We found that it's very important to activate the students very, very early in the course. For example, starting the session with a check-in, or starting the session very early with breakout rooms. What about the cameras? Many of our students, they switch off the camera. So for us as teachers, it's very difficult to have an interactive atmosphere during the sessions. So we encourage the students to switch on the cameras, but for privacy issues, everybody is of course allowed to have the camera switched off. Sometimes we have connectivity issues, of course, that students are disconnected. And in the beginning of the semester, we defined rules how to deal with that, how to come together again if somebody is disconnected from the course. When we have the role plays with the standardized patients, we use Zoom in such a way that only the simulated patient and the interviewing students are shown on the screen, especially for the student who is taking the interview. So to highlight or to increase a bit the intimacy of the session. And what we found was that Zoom meetings are quite exhausting. So we try to have very short breaks after every hour. So what are the conclusions for the last year working with Zoom and working with the DocCom module? The Zoom meetings worked well. However, we want to go back to face-to-face meetings as soon as possible. For example, issues like nonverbal communication is much more difficult to communicate via Zoom meeting. We will keep the Zoom meetings for our trainings for the standardized patients and for the teachers due to the travel time. Working with the DocCom module was a very good preparation for the training, especially when it was obligatory. Many students did not work with the DocCom module when it was voluntary and were therefore not prepared for the course. At the moment, our regulations does not allow 3 obligatory face-to-face or digital meetings plus obligatory assignment for the DocCom module. And here comes a question for you as an expert audience. What would you recommend to us? What shall we do? And we would like to do a poll about this. Would you recommend us to have 3 meetings obligatory and then the DocCom voluntary, or 2 meetings obligatory and DocCom as well obligatory? What is your opinion? Please answer the poll. That would be wonderful.
So one is obligatory and the other one is voluntary.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I see people are answering, and let me end the polling and share the results. So it looks as though people are more in favor of the obligatory 2 sessions, 86%, compared to the voluntary 3 sessions of 14%.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a clear vote. And thank you. I will take this with me and I will discuss it with the team how to deal with that issue. And perhaps we will be able to change the regulations as well and have the 3 meetings, the 3 sessions and the DocCom obligatory. But that voting is very clear. Thank you very much. And I would like to come to an end, so we have some time for discussion. I would like to thank many people, our students and teachers, the Institute for Medical Education in Bern for hosting the German-speaking version of DocCom, Drexel University for setting up DocCom, Dennis Nowak, Wolf Langewitz, many, many more people who are involved, Barbara Lewis, of course, for inviting me to the webinar. And I would like to dedicate my talk to Christoph Detwiller, who was a very visionary and inspiring freethinker, and we will miss him. So thank you very much. And we have another 15 or 14 minutes open for discussion.
So we do have a question that has come in already, actually a couple. How have you controlled the participation in the obligatory DocCom module?
As students must submit the tasks, the written tasks to the Moodle. We had a list of all our students. We were able to check whether all of them admitted their assignments to the Moodle platform. So that was quite easy. We had an Excel sheet and we just controlled whether everybody had submitted the assignments or not. So we did that more or less with an Excel sheet.
And another question here. Any feedback about how to improve DocCom Deutsch module?
Yes, our students very much like the annotated videos, and they really liked working with videos and working with worked examples. So one improvement would absolutely be to include good videos, but also perhaps videos with suboptimal presentation, because then you have enough stuff to discuss this. We, at the moment, for the module sharing information, we were not able to include multiple choice questions. I know that many of the US American modules have included multiple choice questions for self-assessment. This would be another idea to have the opportunity for the students to do their own self-assessment. I think at the moment, our modules are a bit more, they have a bit too much text. So sometimes it's really difficult to reduce the text. So one idea would be reduce the text and increase the video.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any other question? Okay, here's one. Thanks for sharing student evaluation summary. Any feedback from faculty or instructors?
The teachers were the same as the instructors, more or less. So me, for example, I'm responsible for the track. I'm responsible for the teaching, and I'm a teacher as well. So my impression was that the Zoom meeting worked okay, but we really missed the face-to-face, and it's really much more difficult to establish a good atmosphere with a group of students. So, and many of the other teachers as well said, or instructors, it's okay to work with Zoom, but we really prefer face-to-face. We also had 2 teachers who stepped back from teaching because they said for them it's too hard to establish a good atmosphere in Zoom, in a digital course format. So they would like to come back when we can do it face-to-face again.
And I just wanted to comment about the annotated videos. It's very interesting what has been done with that. So learners can learn actually 3 different ways. So one is they can watch the video, they can see the body language. Another way is that annotated has a panel on the side of it where the learner can actually watch what's being said in terms of the concept, which is quite interesting. And then finally, there's a little icon that you can click on and out pops the clinician talking about why he or she is mentioning the particular concept or how the person is trying to move the conversation along. So it's really looking at it, watching it, and then seeing more in depth. So the annotated videos are quite unique, and we find across the board that our learners love them. So are there any other comments maybe on how people are using Zoom themselves, or any other questions? I think we've answered all of the questions that have come up so far. Anything else? Any tips on how you've used Zoom this past year? Or maybe perhaps any challenges that you've had in using Zoom?
Barbara, is it possible to allow the participants to speak?
Yes, I think I can do that.
Perhaps this would be a bit more interactive, because it would be very interesting to share experience from the participants about the teaching communication skills of the last year.
Okay, I will allow everyone to talk, and if you can just unmute yourself. And let's see, okay. So anyone can start talking now if you would like. Any ideas on Zoom or any challenges that you faced? Patricia or Andre?
Just to comment, hi Claudia, here's Andre
Hi.
from Germany. As I think it's for me, it's an inspiring talk to get some ideas how to implement DocCom Deutsch in the mandatory curriculum, and I think we have all the problem in Germany that we have DocCom Deutsch only as mandatory, and I think most of the students are just sneaking in, and but they do not really work with DocCom Deutsch, and I think you give us a good idea how to proceed in implementing it. It would be very nice for me to hear a comment what you think about the colleagues in Bern who are first present DocCom Deutsch on and then have the simulated patient training as connected to DocCom Deutsch modules, but the simulated patient training is not guided by or not trained by an expert. It's just the training with a simulated patient and the students. Do you think it's a good way to work with?
Can I say something about that? I'm Cecil from Bern.
Ah.
I don't know if Kai Schnabel is here today, but we do actually several kinds of training with simulated patients, but most of the simulated patients in our trainings, they are intensively trained by experts before they go into a course. And we do a lot of courses online with simulated patients online, communication courses, also using DocCom Deutsch, of course, but I don't know, maybe I misunderstood you, but I don't recognize that we use SPs in that way.
I'm impressed that I talked about this issue with Kai too, and I'm really impressed that you have a good experience working with simulated patients and students, but not have an extra trainer.
No, we simulation patient training is very important at our institute. It's a fixed part of the program.
Yes, so I think it's a misunderstanding. I have the idea that you are working with simulated patients without an additional trainer who is moderating the session.
I see.
I think you're
Yes,
talking about the web encounter that was established as well, the web encounter where students can book an encounter with a standardized patient, and they meet just one-to-one and are able to receive feedback from the standardized patient in that one-to-one session. And additionally, if wanted, and if the video is uploaded somewhere, can invite other people for feedback. I know this. Is it that concept that you mean, André?
This is another concept, the web encounter concept, but
this is a concept which is very well implemented in the US version. So we
yes.
don't use the web encounter technologically, but we use the same concept with Zoom.
Yes.
Transport it to Zoom somehow, and that works well as well.
We have another question. Someone has raised their hand. Is it Michaela? Do you want to ask a question or a comment? You're unmuted if you want to speak. No, we can't hear you if you are speaking. Okay, I think the hand has gone down. Are
So
there?
perhaps let me add something to how we use the DocCom with the assignments. I think what was important for the students to have very concrete tasks and not only look into DocCom and read it, but have questions to be answered. And I think it was helpful for the students before working with the DocCom to reflect on prior experience and then have very specific questions to be answered. And I think that made it more deep learning with the DocCom module than without any questions or tasks or questions for reflection. So this might be another idea how to bring students to work with DocCom in a more intense way.
Thank you so much. This has been very informative, and I know that we could go on for another hour talking about this, but I know everyone is busy, so we just wanted to give you a taste of what was happening with DocCom Deutsch, and as a result of the article that Claudia wrote, to Zoom or not to Zoom. Thank you so much, Claudia. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention about our sister platform, Professional Formation. These are 13 modules that are now free during COVID. And here is the bit.ly that you can just go to this URL and sign up for as many students as you want and faculty as well to see if you like these modules. They very much follow on the exact same format as the DocCom modules. And finally, in closing, thank you everyone from around the world who is attending. I really appreciate it. But if you are here and you don't subscribe to DocCom and you would like a free trial subscription, please reach out and contact me with your request for that free trial for DocCom modules or any other questions or comments that you may have. We really appreciate your attending today. Thank you so much.